Right now, the federal government is shut down. We are bringing you the latest from lawmakers and sharing with you how some people in Metro Atlanta are offering a helping hand for furloughed federal workers. Also, an unthinkable act inside a house of worship leads a community grieving and now searching for answers. We'll examine how churches can protect their congregations while keeping their doors open. And breast cancer treatments are evolving faster than ever. Find out what doctors are doing to save more lives. This is The Take. Hello and welcome. I'm Cheryl Preheim, in for my friend Chesley McNeil. This is The Take, where we go beyond the headlines and we look at why and how stories are impacting your community. Experts will share what they know and we'll have a little bit of fun too, but we are starting with the big story of the morning. There are two pivotal ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House and the U.S. Capitol. The physical distance, just 2 miles apart, but today they could not be farther apart in every other way. As of now, the federal government is shut down, and it is unclear when it'll reopen. Nearly 750,000 federal workers are now without pay, and this stretches across a wide range of agencies. Air traffic controllers and TSA remain on the job at the nation's airports, but without pay, while more than half of the staff for the National Institutes of the Health and Atlanta-based CDC are furloughed. The Congressional Budget Office estimates the shutdown is draining about $400 million every single day, costs that rise sharply the longer this stalemate drags on. Yesterday, congressional leaders attempted to point blame as to who's causing the shutdown.
We didn't ask Democrats to swallow any new Republican policies. We didn't add partisan riders. We simply asked Democrats to extend existing funding levels to allow the Senate to continue the bipartisan appropriations work that we started. And Senate Democrats said no.
Republicans once again rejected Democrats' proposals to avoid a shutdown, fix health care premiums, and spare Americans the calamity of skyrocketing through the roof health care costs. Republicans blocked it again, once again.
All right, so what's happening now and where do we go from here? We bring in Sina Gallara, an assistant professor of supply chain management at Georgia State's Robinson College of Business. Welcome back to the show.
Hello and good morning. Happy to be here.
All right, now that we are here, what should Americans first brace for with agencies closed for the time being?
So I think this will have primarily a human effect. All these employees that are not getting paid, this is going to have a real impact on their lives and their morale at work. Some of them have to be working without pay. So that's the first effect. Secondarily, other citizens might see delays in processing their government-related efforts, perhaps travel, and airport lines will be longer, rail traffic will be slower, and some of the services at national parks will also be impacted.
There have been government shutdowns for decades, many different administrations, but we're hearing that this shutdown could hit American households harder than previous ones. Why do you think that's the case, and what are you expecting?
So one of the things that the Trump administration has said they'll do is they'll try to make some of these furloughs permanent. And so they'll try to use the opportunity to reduce some of the forces they have. So that might have a longer term impact on labor if that happens. And last time we had a 35-day, more than a month of shutdown, and it had a tangible effect on the economy. It's important to remember if these payments are not paid to government employees, that's just less money going around, and then these people will not be able to buy other things, and so other businesses will be impacted in a chain reaction.
Let's talk more about that, because is there a point of no return where a temporary shutdown really morphs into lasting economic scars?
So it's more of an accelerating effect. So if it only lasts for 1 or 2 weeks, probably negligible effect, because once everybody's back to work, payments will be made and some of the delays will be handled. A very small amount of business activity may never come back because it was just canceled, or the delay has a permanent mark on it. But for the most part, it will have a small effect. But if it becomes longer, problems accelerate. This is kind of like a household. If you're not get paid for 1 or 2 weeks, perhaps you can handle it. You have enough budget to deal with it. But if you're not paid for a month or longer, then you will have to deal with much more serious consequences.
Do you think we'll see a ripple effect in the supply chain?
I think it adds up every week because, again, government is a big player in the economy and they pay a lot of people and they create a lot of business activity as they purchase different things. And so if they stop doing that, many businesses and many households don't get paid, and then that starts a chain reaction throughout the supply chain. Level by level, people don't get paid, business activity slows down, and so you get weaker and weaker economy after that.
In Georgia, which industries do you expect will feel the pain first?
So a lot of industries that are primarily represented by the government, probably things related to education or some non-essential parts of health, as you mentioned, perhaps some of the CDC employees. We are also in a very supply chain heavy region of the country, and so lots of business in Georgia depends on air travel and rail and transportation. Some of that will be affected.
Yeah, no doubt. I was thinking about business travel as you were saying that starts in Atlanta at the world's busiest airport and goes all over the place. Do you see companies maybe delaying orders, contracts, even hiring, because there is this uncertainty as of this morning with the shutdown? No one's certain what's coming next and what a timeline might look like.
Uncertainty is indeed one of the worst things that can happen to business activity. And at this point, as a business manager, you have no idea if this thing is going to take, a few days, a week, or a month or so. So the natural reaction from many business, the prudent reaction from many business leaders could actually be slowing down the decision making and not investing, not committing too long on things that they're not sure about. So this uncertainty could actually have a substantial effect on business activity as well.
And as we always see, small businesses tend to be more vulnerable, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because this all depends on how much buffer you have, how much financial resources and inventory you have to deal with temporary disruptions like this. But the smaller firms don't have much of that, so they are much more vulnerable.
All right, so many impacts and so much uncertainty. So we really appreciate the insight and what this impact could really mean. Sina Galara, always good to get your insight. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take you live to Washington when we come back. Let's get you straight to Washington and NBC's Alice Barr for the latest on the shutdown. Always appreciate your insight, Alice. Sounds like both sides really dug in here. This could go on for even weeks. Can you get us caught up on where the two sides are at this hour?
Good morning, Cheryl. The two sides are very far apart. They are stuck in their corners, and they are both entrenched in both policy but also, frankly, political issues that are keeping them from coming together right now. So what we know is that we are just a couple hours away at 11 o'clock. We're expecting that there will be a couple more votes in the Senate. Same votes that we saw last night that failed, that are stopgap funding measures. But there just is nothing has changed since last night, so there's absolutely no reason to think that either of those votes is going to pass today. And the main crux of the issue excuse me, what's holding everything up right now is that Democrats believe that this is their moment to push for. They would like to see Medicaid cuts that already went through rolled back, and they would like to see Obamacare subsidies that are set to expire at the end of the year extended. And they've made the point, when Republicans have said, let's talk about that later on, Democrats have said there's going to be notices going out as soon as this week to people about what their insurance costs are going to be. And if those subsidies are not extended, those premium costs could double. So they're trying to put some urgency behind why they want this to get done now. Republicans consider all of that extraneous to just straightforward for continuing resolution to fund the government and reopen it right now, and neither side is budging at this moment.
There was a meeting earlier this week at the White House between President Trump and congressional leaders. Are we expecting any more discussions on the horizon that you know of? Looks like we just lost Alice Barr. Her shot dropped. As she's saying, both sides dug in very far apart. We're waiting to hear if perhaps there could be a meeting in the coming days. At this point, all we're hearing since that deadline passed us at 12:01, just 1 minute after midnight, is both sides coming to the microphone, blaming the other for what they're saying will be an impact to the American people. The longest shutdown in U.S. history was 35 days. It was under President Trump's first term. So both sides have been involved in this before, those who were part of the administration, the Trump administration, the first time. So here we are on the first morning of the shutdown. Much more to talk about as we think about how far it might go. Again, the longest in history, 35 days under the Trump administration's first term. Plenty more coming up for you on The Take. We'll be right back. Right now, there is an active arrest warrant for actor Tyrese Gibson. Authorities allege his cane corso dogs mauled and killed a neighbor's small pet in Buckhead. Gibson's attorneys say that the animals have since been rehomed, and he has expressed condolences to the family. But the case is sparking a much bigger question and conversation. How do owners properly train and control powerful breeds? Let's bring in Blake Rashad, founder of the Top Dog Canine Foundation, to talk more about that discipline, responsibility, and prevention. Thank you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, sorry under these circumstances. When you heard what happened, what was the first thing that came to your mind? Because you have so much expertise and experience in this.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is it is a challenge if you're not familiar with working dogs, big dogs, aggressive dogs, or dogs that have a high prey drive. All of these causes dogs to do things, to be overly aggressive or overly active. Either way, people and other dogs can find themselves in danger.
When we talk about training a dog, any breed, what are some of the standard rules that you feel are most important for people to follow?
Well, most of the time, people don't get enough training. They just get a little bit of training from the local PetSmarts and stuff like that, and that's just puppy training. You really need a comprehensive training where your dog goes through a few weeks of training, inboarding training, or multiple classes. And also, you need remedial to keep your dog on task.
In the case of Tyrese Gibson's dogs, those are cane corsos. They're huge. You know, the male dogs can be up to 120 pounds. Even the females are close to 100 pounds. And we know that the dog that was mauled was a smaller breed. What are the biggest mistakes you see when owners, when it comes to these really powerful large breed dogs?
Well, the biggest mistakes people make is they don't understand what they have. You need to be very aware of what type of working dog that you have, because these dogs have extremely high prey drives, and they go after anything that runs, whether that be a child, a mailman, or a dog. And they'll go after these people or dogs with intense aggression. So you have to prepare your yard. You have to know what you have. And you have to walk your property and make sure that your yard hasn't changed. Trees haven't fallen on your fence, or holes haven't been dug in your yard. You have to make sure the fence is tall enough and strong enough to hold a 140-pound dog. This is not a 4-foot fence type dog.
Sure.
You know.
We mentioned that warrant is out for Tyrese Gibson. Do you think a lot of people aren't aware of the liability they have as an owner in controlling a pet?
Absolutely. Most people are not aware. The warrant is out because they ask him to turn himself in. On usually cases like this, they'll give copy of charges. They'll come out to your house, assess the situation. If you release the dogs, then they'll take the dogs. If you don't, they'll get a court order for them to take the dogs. But if you don't comply to them telling you to come in, then they have no choice but to set a warrant. That's why that happened. In normal cases, it's not necessary a warrant will be set.
And Gibson, of course, has shared a statement saying he's terribly sorry for what happened, really thinking about the other family who lost that dog. Let's talk a little bit more about the other side of that. What would you say to someone who's just lost a beloved pet in an attack like this?
It's difficult. It's difficult. You should. grieving for a pet is very difficult, and you should communicate with people that already have pets and understand pets. Sometimes talking to coworkers that's never owned a pet, they really don't understand the grieving process and the love that a pet gives you and you give a pet. So they kind of look at you a little odd because they really don't understand. So you want to reach out to people that really understand, possibly people that already knew your pet and who's probably going to share that loss.
Yeah, really grief on both sides of this equation, no doubt about it. If you could leave owners with one rule to live by, what would it be?
Be prepared. Don't wait. Dogs are going to do what dogs do. Don't just allow them to do it. Be prepared. So if you have a big dog or if you have a high drive dog, get the fence, get the privacy fence, get the heavier gauge fence, and watch your dog. If you have a dog like that, aggressive dog, go out with it while it's in your backyard and watch your dog so it doesn't hop the fence and do something dangerous.
Blake, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Dogs are such a big part of our lives, really part of our families, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
All right, you too. A lot more coming up for you. You're watching The Take. Every morning, more than 1 million Georgia children climb aboard a school bus, and parents trust that those buses will bring them home safely. But nearly 100 times since August, that trust's been shaken by wrecks caused by other drivers. 11Alive's Gridlock guy, Doug Turnbull, is here with why these crashes keep happening. And Doug, what it really will take to protect our children and our roads. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks. Good to talk to you, Cheryl. I know you have a teenage driver in your house, so they're probably making that transition from being on a school bus to being a driver behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And whether we have school buses or other cars in school zones or pedestrians, we know that those are zones where a lot more things could go wrong. So one of the things here is that the Georgia State Patrol and rather Department of Public Safety put out some stats a couple of weeks ago that between August 1st and August 11th, there were nearly 200 school bus crashes in the state of Georgia, and around 95 of those are where other drivers were at fault. They also said in those numbers, Cheryl, that 91% of the injuries in school bus crashes aren't with, and you see them on the screen here, aren't with children in the buses, but they're actually with people in those other vehicles because those are smaller. So the State Patrol and the Georgia Department of Public Safety had some tips they told me about helping people actually save themselves as much as saving the kids.
Yeah, you know, you really think about the drivers. In full transparency, my dad was a lifelong teacher, and when he retired, he started driving a school bus because he missed the kids so much. And he would tell me, I wish I could just remind people about my precious cargo because people feel so busy around me. I don't think they're intentionally trying to be dangerous, but it's hard to navigate a vehicle of that size. Think about it on these busy Atlanta roads.
It's extremely hard to do. So we did a report very similar to this about tractor trailers, and the Department of Public Safety's Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Unit helps to keep those safe and enforce those trucks, keeping other drivers safe, same as they do with school buses. They inspect about 20,000 school buses a year. One thing that the commander of the DPS's School Bus Safety Division, Anthony Hudson, told me is drivers should give about 2 car lengths between themselves and a bus, and always assume that a bus in service with kids on it is about to stop. I mean, almost any time you see a bus, they're not flying by you, right? They're stop and go. So Hudson also gave a great reminder, which is, hey, remember, when school's back in, this is not a summer driving pattern. 2/3 or 3/4 of our year, we have buses on these roads that are stopping in neighborhoods that you're going to need to add extra time to your commute. And by the way, drivers need to be more patient, okay? If we have 1.7 million students in the state of Georgia, which we do approximately, that means that's like 1.7 million people rejoining the, quote, workforce.
Yeah.
Rejoining the workforce around August, right? So that means there's way more traffic on the road. So if we were just more patient, had our heads up and not down on our phones, a lot of these crashes wouldn't happen, whether there are kids on board these buses or not.
Sure, I was thinking about the emotional toll on all sides, for the bus driver who has the responsibility of the kids, for the kids or any parent or anyone who loves them at home and has to hear about something like this, but for the other drivers too. It's just a little bit of a different emotional situation when you're talking about a bus full of children.
A bus full of children, and anytime we hear about a school bus crash, Rachel Cox-Rosen and I on the traffic team, we immediately inquire, are there kids on board? Are they hurt? It's not like a regular crash because you have sensitive lives out there. And think about this, even though the school buses are the safest way for kids to get to school versus walking or riding in a car, if they see a crash, like that SUV we saw the B-roll of a moment ago, that was in Cobb County, a crash that we covered. they might see a car upside down, they might see a person hurt. That could emotionally scar the kids as well as the driver that's having to haul them around.
Yeah, you made a really good point. There are buses who make it safely every single day that get to where they need to get to safely. But when we're talking about 100 crashes since August, it is an important conversation to have. So if you had 10 seconds to speak directly to a distracted driver about the life or death stakes here, what would you want to say to them?
Number one, distracted driving should have the same stigma and has the same effect as drunk driving. And number two, pretend like your own kids, if you have kids, are on that bus. We should all be treating each other, whether in cars or buses, with the same respect and the same respect. The moment that we make a selfish move, we're being disrespectful to other people and putting ourselves too in harm's way.
You mentioned my driver who's learning. He also has a 9-year-old little brother. I always say, remember, kids like your brother are on those buses. So.
Amen to that,
all
Cheryl.
right.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Doug. Thanks so much.
Good to be on with you.
Much more on The Take coming up right after the break. Breast cancer touches nearly every family in some way, whether it's a mother, a sister, friend, maybe a coworker. During this Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the focus isn't just on pink ribbons, but on the real people fighting, surviving, and pushing towards a cure. The American Cancer Society says about 1 in 8 women in the U.S. will develop invasive breast cancer in her lifetime, making it the most common cancer among women. Breast cancer remains the second leading cause of cancer death among women, taking about 43,000 lives in the U.S. each year. But when detected early and still localized, breast cancer has a 99% survival rate for 5 years, underscoring the importance of screenings and these conversations. So here's more about how we are fighting breast cancer is Dr. Nitika Sharma, medical oncologist and hematologist with City of Hope, Atlanta. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Technology changing quickly. What advancements in treatment are you seeing that are giving patients the best outcomes right now?
The breast cancer treatment breakthroughs and recent developments in research are fueling new ways to assess risk of breast cancer and prevent, detect, diagnose, and treat breast cancer. These new breast cancer treatment breakthroughs are focused on getting more effective drugs out to serve our people. And these drugs do not only specifically target breast cancer cells, but also are aimed to minimize side effects from treatments, as well as prevent breast cancer cells from coming back.
Yeah.
So while some treatments increase the effectiveness of existing drugs, others offer new innovative strategies for attacking tumor cells. The breast cancer treatment is not anymore one size fits all. The breast cancer is a wide umbrella with different types of breast cancer cells underneath. And each type of breast cancer is driven by separate mechanisms of resistance that can develop and the treatments that work for that.
So specialized treatments depending on what stage a woman it is and what cancer you see. The one thing that is pretty universal is this early detection and the need for mammograms, but there has been confusion over the guidelines about what age a woman should start that process. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. In general, if the patient does not have any risk factors over the age of 40, the USPSTF, the NCCN guidelines recommend screening for every woman over the age of 40 once a year. So an annual screening mammogram is recommended. However, there are certain high-risk population as well, such as individuals who have gotten radiation treatment for a different cause between the age of 10 and 30 years, individuals with family history of breast cancer, individuals with certain ethnicities such as Ashkenazi Jews may have a higher risk of carrying high-risk mutations such as BRCA mutation. And for those individuals, the screening may be recommended earlier than 40 years.
So those conversations are really important to have with a doctor. Black women in Georgia are often diagnosed at later stages and have higher mortality rates because of some barriers that we're seeing. Can you talk about the barriers and what we need to do to bring those down?
Yes. In general, the breast cancer incidence is higher amongst white women as compared to the Black women. But what is an interesting fact is that the Black women do have a higher risk of mortality when diagnosed with the breast cancer. There still exists a lot of disparity between when it comes to screening, screening itself, the diagnosis, and the research trials. And one of the goals of City of Hope is to work on those, removing those disparities in the diagnosis of breast cancer. The earlier the breast cancer is diagnosed, there is a much higher likelihood of cure. The earlier stage the cancer is, there is much high likelihood of cure and lower risk of the cancer coming back. So the focus of City of Hope is to overcome these barriers that exist between different races.
Yeah, an equity of access and care. Quickly, if someone were to think about doing one or two things differently in terms of their lifestyle to try to bring down their risk, quickly, what would that be?
The first and the foremost thing is, go for regular exams, see a doctor regularly and know your baseline. Okay. If you notice anything suspicious, don't hesitate to seek care. The breast cancer, although is generally more commonly seen in older individuals, but we are seeing more and more cancers in younger individuals less than 40 years of age. So it is a growing epidemic in breast cancer and several other cancers as well. Yeah. So do not ignore the symptoms. But when it comes to lifestyle modifications, focused on healthy eating, trying to lose weight, unintentional weight gain can be a risk factor itself.
Healthy life and see those doctors. Dr. Sharma, thank you so much. We appreciate the information.
You're very welcome.
Let's take you outside for a quick look over the King and Queen building. What a beautiful blue sky we have over the city of Atlanta today. Looks gorgeous. We could use the rain though as we start October, coming off a very dry September. So we'll enjoy the clear skies while we have it, but know that rain would be a good thing whenever it comes. Investigators confirmed Tuesday that a gunman in Sunday's attack on a church in Michigan had a history of hostility toward the Mormon faith, adding weight to the belief that this was a targeted attack. This unfolded Sunday night at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Chapel in Grand Blanc Township. That's about 60 miles northwest of Detroit. The gunman, identified as 40-year-old Thomas Sanford, drove a pickup truck into the church and opened fire. Investigators believe Sanford first opened fire inside the church, then poured gasoline and ignited it. At least 4 people were killed, 8 others wounded. Sanford was killed in a shootout with law enforcement. This raises painful questions about whether faith communities are prepared for violence in such sacred spaces. With us now is Marcus Snipe. He is the head of security for our parent company, Tegna, was a former Secret Service agent in charge. We are so sorry to be having this conversation under these circumstances, but we're seeing more and more why this is such an important conversation to have.
Yes, and thanks for having me on this morning. Situations like this, you have individuals who are focused on a particular cause or a particular religion, and they have found that acting out, performing violently or performing violent acts tends to get them the attention that they're seeking. They've seen this time and time again, and I think you're seeing a rise of these type of incidents because of that. These individuals, these subjects see that, hey, I could really showcase my cause if I do something dramatic. And dramatic is going into a church with a weapon and shooting people and setting on fire, unfortunately.
That video was traumatic and dramatic. Church is supposed to be a sacred place, a safe place. Do you feel like there's a greater vulnerability because of that assumption, and is that now something that must change?
Yes, I think it's always been out there. I think it's just being recognized a little bit more because more places like churches are becoming targets. Schools have always been targets. Movies, movie theaters, public events. So you're starting to see an uptick, but they have always been vulnerable. We in the industry, in the security industry, call them soft targets. And that's a soft target. When I say that's a soft target, that means, hey, it's not like you're going to an Atlanta Braves game or Atlanta Falcons game or an upcoming, World Cup soccer match, where those are what we call hard targets, where, hey, the security is going to be in place. Any individual that's thinking about breaching those targets are going to be met with fierce security and robust security. Whereas a soft target, like a church, they don't have that security apparatus. A movie theater, malls, restaurants, they don't have a robust security infrastructure where you have, security guards, or you have security intelligence, and you have police officers outside, or you have a visual presence of security. So that target, or that visual, when you're considering doing something to a church, you go, all right, this will be easy to accomplish because, hey, I won't get any resistance.
So how do you balance that welcoming, open nature that churches want to have with the reality that security needs to be tighter? What steps do you feel like churches should be taking, especially these small churches that don't have a lot of money or resources?
Yes, and this may sound elementary, but it starts, all of these attackers, all these suspects, all these bad actors, they just don't wake up one morning and boom, snap, right? They announce what they're going to do. And they announce it in ways that, hey, you may not think it's a big deal, but a family member of a congregation, may see, hey, this person is, putting strange things out on social media. They're saying, things that they usually don't say.
That's such
when
a
we're
good
eating
point.
breakfast.
So the community has to take part in being that first line of defense. Marcus, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We have a lot more coming up on the other side of the break. You're watching The Take. Welcome back. President Trump and Pfizer have reached a new deal on drug prices. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Always good to see you. This is a story that could affect a lot of people and what they pay at the pharmacy.
Let's break it down, Cheryl. So Tuesday, President Trump announced this deal you're talking about with Pfizer that lowers the cost of their drugs in the U.S. So the drug maker agreed to match the lowest prices offered in other developed nations in exchange for a 3-year grace period on tariffs. It will also invest $70 billion to bring its manufacturing and research back to the U.S. Now, Trump says the reduced drugs will be available through a new website. He called it Trump RX. The lower prices will be offered to patients across Medicaid, Medicare, and commercial health systems. The president says he's talking with other drug companies about similar agreements, adding that if they don't make a deal, he'll tariff them. Cheryl, the implications could be big here. We'll see what other drug companies do to act.
Yeah, a lot ahead. Looks like Zillow just paid a lot of money to make one of its rivals disappear.
Big price tag here. The FTC is suing home search website Zillow and Redfin, alleging they teamed up to lock out rivals. The lawsuit claims Zillow paid Redfin $100 million to be an exclusive promoter of its listings. And in return, Redfin agreed to cancel key advertising contracts and end competing rental listings for up to 9 years. Now, the FTC says the deal could unfairly boost prices and stifle competition. The feds want the judge to sever Zillow and Redfin's partnership, potentially strip them of some of their assets. Redfin denies any wrongdoing, saying the partnership expanded access for users and advertisers. But Cheryl, for buyers, it's about access to a full picture, what's truly available. And without transparency, buyers could miss out on what's really out there and the best deal.
Yeah, interesting impacts there. Let's talk about a big recall. Kia pulling tens of thousands of SUVs.
So Kia is recalling more than 39,000 Sorento SUVs over potential fire hazard. A wiring harness in the vehicle's heating and air system can overheat and catch fire. It affects models made between 2021 and 2023. Kia dealers will make that repair for free. Owners will be notified by mail starting in November. Cheryl, full recall information can be found on Kia's website under recalls.
All right, here we are, October 1st. I'm seeing Halloween decorations up already and candy at the stores. It's coming early at Trader Joe's, but that's making me think about the mini totes.
Yes, and you are right to think that, Cheryl. Trader Joe's is getting into the Halloween spirit with their latest mini canvas tote bags. Their new fall bag collection will drop next Wednesday, the 8th, for $2.99 each. So they come in these spooky season colors like purple, orange, all black, or multicolor. The mini totes have become this customer craze over the last year, often creating these long lines and viral videos. Some fans have even tried to resell them online for as much as $500, a practice Trader Joe's strongly condemns. As for availability, well, the company says the bags are rolling out now, so call your local Trader Joe's to make sure they're in stock. Cheryl, I guess social media really works for Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
I saw a viral dump recipe video, all the ingredients at Trader Joe's. I went to go try to get them. These are ingredients sold out until tomorrow.
Interesting. Listen, you had me at $2.99 for the tote. That's great. $500. Someone else can gladly put that thing over their shoulder. Thanks for the time. Always good to see you.
You got it.
All right, plenty more coming up for you. You're watching The Take. We'll be right back. Now that the U.S. government has shut down for the foreseeable future, the way of life for thousands of federal workers living here in Georgia is being flipped on its head. Yesterday, the Georgia Department of Labor put out a statement ahead of the midnight deadline saying, "We are here to support you and will share essential information should a shutdown occur." With lives on hold, families holding their collective breath here, groups around Metro Atlanta are now opening up to support federal workers caught in the crossfire here of uncertainty. One of those groups is Ministries, and with us today is its president and CEO, Dr. Ike Reigard. Thank you so much for the time.
I'm honored to be with you today, Cheryl. Thank you for the opportunity.
We know it's a tough day for more than 110,000 federal workers just here in Georgia alone. When you hear about families suddenly losing that paycheck overnight, what goes through your mind as a leader of a group built to serve people in crisis?
Well, it immediately puts us on notice that the services that we provide are going to become even more essential than they normally are. And so we're always standing by ready to be able to help people with, particularly in the area of food and shelter. Because if this becomes something that's extended, becomes something that becomes much deeper, then obviously the implications grow stronger for those people that are not having a paycheck and being able to buy the things they need.
And we've talked a lot about the economy. It's a tough time for so many families when the paycheck is consistent and it is coming in. So the tangibles are one thing, the food and shelter like you talked about, but how much of the conversation is also about trying to keep hope alive for families in such a time that they really have no control over the outcome?
Right, and I think any time that you get into situations that are unexpected, it causes unaccustomed emotions that people go through. And the biggest one is fear. How am I going to be able to take care of my family? And that's why we have multiple ways that we can do that through our feeding programs in particular, because we give away on average 3.5 to 4 tons of food each and every day. And so we get our food from people like the Atlanta Community Food Bank. Mm-hmm. When these things begin to happen, it affects your supply chain, especially if it's prolonged. And so we're there to be able to let people know that we have food, that we're ready to be able to assist in any way that we can, and we're honored to be able to do that.
You bring up a really important point, because when you're talking about that 4 tons of food just from your organization, that is kind of on a normal basis. And now we have another layer of need that happened literally at midnight. How does a moment like this test the very mission of what you and other organizations are doing?
Well, you're making preparations in advance to be ready for a situation like this. And we've known that the possibility existed. We've been through experiences like this before. And right now, it's not impacting us, for instance, on the government grants that we have each month that total over $200,000 that help us to be able to provide permanent supportive housing, emergency housing. We have veterans housing. And right now, those funds are not at risk. But normally we're in a situation where we get reimbursed. So we're already putting the money out there, and then the government reimburses us. So I think anytime you have a situation like that, it just bears watching, and you try to put yourself in a good financial position that when you're needed more, you're able to step up and to be there.
So what would your message be for families who are not impacted by this shutdown, for corporations, for those who maybe are watching, may want to help? What's the most impactful way the community steps in alongside you and everyone, all of our neighbors in need right now?
Well, obviously giving to organizations, not just MUST, but organizations like MUST that are there to be able to step in. With inflation being at an all-time high, the things that we're experiencing, the cost of food and the others, when we can come along and be a supplement to those families, to be able to help to get them through the pantries that we have embedded inside of schools, along with our MUST mobile where we go out, 3 standalone pantries, we're in a good position to be able to help people for an extended period of time. And so we're honored to be in that position.
Because we know the need is just growing as we speak, even when you look at this year compared to last, correct?
Yeah, every year it seems like it's gotten more difficult because, again, the price of food. Even going out for fast food today, I mean, it stretches you because all of a sudden things are so much more expensive. And then when you're not getting a paycheck, I even understand that for the essential employees, they have to go in, but they don't get paid. I mean, that's tough. So they're still having to spend money to buy gas, do all the other things. And so we have a lot of those people in Cobb County and metropolitan Atlanta that we're here to serve. And so when we have that privilege to step up and serve, we want to be there.
Thank you for the work that you're doing every day. We appreciate it. And thanks for your time, Dr. Rygard.
Thank you so much.
Much more coming up. You're watching The Take. We'll be right back. Before we go, my final take. Today marks some significant milestones. It would have been Jimmy Carter's 101st birthday, and today is the release of a brand new U.S. Postal Service stamp in his honor. The former president from Plains, Georgia, is celebrated as the longest living president in U.S. history, remembered as much for a lifetime of public service and humility, a humanitarian. And the timing striking. The Carter stamp comes out on the same day the nation faces yet another government shutdown. It's something Carter himself dealt with 5 times during his presidency. He told me in an interview a few years ago that the growing dysfunction in Washington was, in his words, an abomination and a takeaway from every American. He said the government works best when both sides find ways to work together for all the people. When he passed away, I was in Washington, D.C., talking to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. They did not agree with his policy, but all agreed that his service to others and the way he built political bridges was an example to all. So why a Carter stamp? The USPS says it's because he, quote, truly personified the best in America and is a reminder from a Georgia son what is possible. Hope you have a fantastic day.